I have been talking on this show for ages to the detriment of your sanity about finding a car.
Yeah.
And I think it's over, Brian. I think it's over.
What?
I may sign the deal to order one on this show. During the show. If it happens, if I get the email, I will pause programming and sign
Okay.
that thing and send them the $500 deposit.
And part of the tricky part of this, of course, is electric cars are often in short supply, especially where we live. So it isn't typically like a normal car where you can just go and they have one on the lot. This is what's add to the complication that you've had.
And the used cars are at MSRP, the sticker price at the dealership, or above.
For used
For
versions
used
of these
versions,
cars.
slightly, even some that are a couple of years old with some serious mileage on them.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of market we're in. So the advantage is only to pre-order one. And that's true with a lot of cars around here anyway. We're not getting much stock of anything. They're just, since COVID, they've been pre-ordering and it takes a few months and that's that. But something happened. I found this on Reddit with a local person who bought a Chevy Bolt. And I was so happy and surprised. I never thought it would happen to me for at least 10 years. And that is, this person found and was sold a Bolt by someone who owned a Bolt. You know, that's even rare in the States, in dealerships in California and New England.
Yeah, the salespeople often don't own electric cars. They often don't know anything about them.
They often don't know anything about them or want to sell them or think that they're even worthy of buying. So to find somebody who actually bought one, knows more about it than I do, which is,
Yeah.
you know, that never happens because people research the heck out of everything that they buy when they go to buy an electric car. I'm an expert on the Leaf. There's not much I couldn't tell you about the Leaf. I know what it looks like down to the smallest battery cell because I had the research.
You know there's no exhaust pipe.
I do know that, although I'm thinking of installing one. for a heater, but we'll see how that goes because I keep watching that on YouTube. So that is fantastic. I would buy a car off that person just for the fact that they... So I called him up and had a nice conversation with him. He's a salesperson, but he does own a Chevy Bolt EUV and has for, I think, a year or two now. Loves it. Will upgrade to the larger Equinox when it comes out next year, mostly for the charging speed. Because remember, the Bolt charges at 50 kilowatts, which could take you an hour and a half on the highway.
Not great for road
That's
trips.
not a happy situation, and it would be even worse in the wintertime. So it's difficult to do. And I've gotten around that by just determining that I'm going to probably just take our combustion vehicle or, because we might anyway. I was, worried about this. We probably won't really go to visit our kid in university a couple and a half hours away. That'll be electric, but
yeah. And I will say too, I'm going to Fargo, North Dakota at the end of March to the Fargo Film Festival. And we've decided to take a gas car because we're going with our friend
and you don't want to put
we
her
kind
through
of
that.
We kind of have to do it in one day, and it's like an 8 or 9 hour drive. And if it was just me going, I would go electric and take an extra day. But 9 hours plus the charging would be too much.
Yeah, that 9 hours is a tough day as it is, especially for, people our age. It's more like we just don't want to put up with crap anymore, We're not 20. He had an interesting suggestion, although it could have been a sales pitch to me. You know how the Chevy Bolts come with standard installation of an electric car charger, so they pay an electrician to go through that process. And everyone in the United States and Canada has had trouble with that. It's been a horrible process, and the dealerships screw you, the electricians screw you. But he said, well, I had a plug installed for $250. So, and a lot of people are doing that sort of work. Like if they have room on their panel, they'll put in the plug for $250 and, the alternative to doing that is taking a $700 cash card for charging on the highway. So you net, for $250 that way, I guess, is the theory.
Yeah, and by putting in a plug, you mean just put a 240 volt plug on the side of your house.
Yeah, and then because it comes with the charger. I mean, the Bolt EUV comes with a $400 charger that is dual voltage, which is nice. So it has two different ponytails on it, short ponytails. One you can plug in and take off that goes to 110, a regular outlet. which would charge at about 6 or 7 kilometers an hour or 4 miles. And that's slow, but you can get, you know, a decent trip overnight. Not so great in the winter when it has to heat the battery, though, because then a lot of that's going just to heat the battery. So yeah, it does have the 240 as well. And that's kind of nice because I could take that to campgrounds, you know, if we were finding ourselves camping with it as a second car, because sometimes we bring a second car to the campground.
Yeah, and campgrounds often have 240-volt plugs.
And we would have lots of electricity if we needed it when we're camping, which is a nice thing to have, a big storage of electricity. It doesn't have any vehicle to load. It doesn't have any outlets on it, unfortunately. That would have been interesting for camping. But I think my camping days are over, frankly. So basically, you have to put a $500 deposit down and get pre-approved for the credit. If you're paying cash, it's $1,000. And I noticed that the dealership, we were talking about this with our mortgage broker because we're renewing our mortgage. He couldn't understand why we were buying a new car. And I said, well, the cars that we're shopping for, you know, the interest rates are often lower than used cars. And that's especially true now, especially important now that interest rates are so far up. Volkswagen was offering something like 8.7% financing. And the national Chevy website says 5.8, but this I got the local dealership. Once you go there on their webpage, they've got like 3.9%, which is not bad. I don't know if they're financing it their own way, but that, you know, and I won't be getting the car, by the way, for maybe 8 months. We'll see. He figures 3 months at least until we order it. He thinks maybe 3 to 5 months, probably 5 months before we can even order it. But he's not aware that Chevy just doubled their production. So, yeah.
Yeah, because the Bolt, after they do their final decisions in March about what qualifies for the Inflation Reduction Act rebate, the Bolt may not qualify, I guess.
So it's something like that. And then once they place the order, it'll take another 3 months to get here. And I can have a refund of that deposit the whole way until it gets to the dealership, I guess. And even then I could, you know, test drive it and refuse it. And I don't think they're too concerned because they had 7 people on their waiting list right now. And they said they knocked a few off the other day, though, that they got a few allocations, which is what this is all about, is that dealership getting allocations. And yeah, so we went with the Bolt EUV, the slightly larger, more, it's a pretend SUV. It's not a real SUV, but it looks less like a chintzy hatchback. And, you know, Brian, I've been watching a lot of videos now that I had to get serious about pulling the trigger. I'm surprised, and forgive me, Tesla people, but I've seen some people say who have both cars that the interior is actually nicer on the Bolt. It's more premium from basically the hip up. It's cheap plastic below that. But yeah, there's a lot of criticisms about how much Tesla charges. I mean, they're twice as much as this car. Yeah. And yet there are some aspects, and even the ride quality was complimented this over the Model Y. And I couldn't believe they were even in the same sentence because the Model Y is my dream car. I just can't afford it. It makes me also think that Tesla has this huge advantage with the largest supercharger network that they get right.
It's crazy.
They've got they've got a manufacturer in China, a factory that puts them out on a cement pedestal. So they're already pre-installed, and they can ship those suckers out and put them up in short order, relatively speaking, and short expense. And I hope that they become the charging network for everyone. Now, I wish it was the Tesla format too. The format of their charger is like a fraction of the size of the other ones for the highway.
Yeah, the plug is nice and small. And in places like Europe and now recently Australia, they have started to open up the Supercharger network to non-Tesla cars. So we will eventually get that, but I'm not sure how soon.
Hopefully soon, because there's lots of money from the United States and Canadian governments going into such a thing that they can take advantage of now by doing that. They couldn't otherwise. They had to serve everybody. You know, they had to have the CCS standards. So yeah, the person at the dealership, he does not road trip. He says they take their other Equinox gas car.
Yep.
I would find it's 400 kilometers. So these people are getting the 400 kilometers out of this, or 250 miles, you know, they're getting that out of it on the highway, which is in the summertime, which is really good. I don't know how that happens because, you know, and they just came out with, they did a lot of press. So there's a lot of reviews that are new. People are coming back to it and saying, you know, for the price, which is $19,000 in the States after rebate, which is ridiculous.
Way more here,
is a
but yep.
great value. A lot more here,
Yeah.
but we'll see. I'm still hoping it comes down in price because the Equinox is bigger and more premium and expensive of a vehicle, charges 3 times as fast. It is listed at 37,000 Canadian, and that's 4 less than the Bolt. So the Bolt has to come down. I think the Equinox will keep going up because it's already gone up twice, as
Yeah.
I've said before on the show. I think it's going to go up to where the Bolt is, but the Bolt will have to come down. The question is when. And, it's come down in the States, did not come down here. I'm really hoping it comes down here. I really wish that I could get a vehicle. I kind of fancy the Volkswagen ID4. I think once they get the bugs worked out of that, and there's a few in the early editions, they're getting recalls for software and for the infotainment system. I think I would like that car. I like the German styling. I've kind of taken a fancy to it recently, as far as what the price goes.
No, and I wanted to mention the EPA range came out for the Hyundai Ioniq 6, which is a cool looking car. Not quite available yet, going to be available soon. And yeah, the efficiency and the range is really good on that car. The max range, there's different trims, but the max range, 581 kilometers or 361 miles. So in terms of like EVs that are available in Canada, that's number 2 in terms of range after the Tesla Model S.
Well, the Chris at the dealership at Wheaton Chevrolet, which is, by the way, just down the road, I could yell at it from here on North Avenue.
And if we mention their name enough, maybe you'll get a
I
further
doubt it,
discount.
Brian. If I thought that was the case, I would be putting a commercial together for them right now and doing a song and dance. But I don't think it will. Interestingly, he said until about last June, they couldn't sell them. They were very nervous to get them on the lot and didn't know what to do with them. And then eventually some nerdy person would come and buy it from the local EV community. But he said since then, it's been pandemonium that everyone's interested in them and wanting to get them. So, I mean, gas prices had a lot to do.
Yeah, and of course, the Super Bowl is next week, and we're expecting to be inundated with more EV ads over the Super Bowl. So maybe another kind of spike in orders after that.
Yeah, I was going to mention that it's been kind of quiet on the EV advertising front. But the Super Bowl should let us, because last year was nothing but EV ads. We'll see if that holds up this year. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. And he also said he uses the app in the wintertime. He pays $15 a month for the app just during the winter months for preheating the car. But since we live where we live, it's not, cooling the car is not a big deal. It can, it's not really hugely hot here usually. And he says he uses his home speaker to start a car. He'll say, I can't say it now because I have a number. I'd unplug my Alexa. He could say, Alexa, ask my Chevy to start my Bolt, and it'll ask for a PIN number. That's very me. I change everything with my Alexa. I don't do anything. I don't urinate with my Alexa, without her approval.
It's the producer of this podcast, really.
That's true. And in a sense it is. So yeah, that's my story. I'm quite happy, and I don't even have to go down there. He sent me a link to do the deposit. I could just put it on a credit card and do it from home, never have to go down there. They will keep me up to date as to when it's leaving the factory and something like that.